The house stood alone, at the edge of town where the pavement surrendered to gravel. It watched from the top of the hill, weathered wood, a bleached gray, almost bone-white in the afternoon sun. The windows, dark and vacant, seemed to absorb the light. No reflection, no hint of life within, just an emptiness that promised something more, something unsettling. I parked the car a distance away. An irrational fear maybe, but I didn't want to disturb the silence, or whatever resided within those walls. This was a house that preferred not to be disturbed. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out. The air was still. No birds sang. Even the wind seemed to avoid this place. Each step towards the house felt heavier than the last. The porch creaked under my weight, a low, mournful sound, like a sigh escaping from the belly of the house. I imagined the wood groaning, pleading with me to turn back. The door was ajar, paint peeling like scabs. A single rusted hinge held it precariously open. The invitation was clear but unwelcome. I reached for the handle, cold and rough beneath my fingers. A gust of stale air hit me as I stepped inside. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through cracks in the boarded-up windows. The air was thick with the smell of decay, of forgotten things. Silence pressed in, heavy and absolute, the kind of silence that felt alive, listening, waiting. I was an intruder here, a trespasser in a realm of quiet horrors. The hallway stretched before me, swallowed by shadows. Dust-covered furniture loomed in the gloom, their shapes distorted by the darkness. I imagined eyes watching me from those obscured corners, judging. Each footstep echoed in the stillness. The sound seemed to cling to the air, refusing to dissipate. This house held on to sound as it did secrets, with a suffocating grip. I ran a hand along the wall, feeling for a light switch. My fingers brushed against something cold and slick. I recoiled, heart pounding, just cobwebs, or so I told myself. But the silence whispered otherwise. It hinted at unseen things, lurking just beyond the reach of my senses, things that preferred the shadows, things that were better left undisturbed. The air grew colder as I moved deeper into the house, a damp, clinging chill that seeped into my bones. The silence seemed to amplify it, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. The hallway opened into a large, empty room. A fireplace dominated one wall, its gaping maw cold and lifeless. Above the mantelpiece hung a faded portrait, a family, their faces obscured by grime and time. But their eyes seemed to follow me. A floorboard creaked somewhere above. The sound was sharp, sudden, like a twig snapping underfoot. I froze, listening intently. My breath caught in my throat. Silence. But the silence was different now, taut, expectant, as if something had been disturbed, something that was now aware of my presence. I continued on, drawn deeper into the silent house by a morbid curiosity I couldn't explain. Each room was a mirror of the last, empty, dusty, frozen in time, and always the oppressive silence. In the corner of one room, I noticed something out of place. A child's doll, propped against the wall. Its porcelain face was cracked, one eye staring up at me with a disturbing intensity. I could almost feel the ghost of a child's touch clinging to it. As I turned away, something flickered at the edge of my vision, a movement in the hallway. Too quick to be certain, I spun around, heart pounding. Nothing, but the silence held a new note, a faint rustling, like silk brushing against stone. I strained my ears, trying to place it. It seemed to be coming from the floor above. I ascended the creaking staircase, each step a testament to the house's decay. The air grew noticeably colder as I climbed. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and dust. And something else. Something metallic, like old blood. The hallway upstairs was a mirror image of the one below. Long, dark, and shrouded in an unnatural silence. The only light came from the moon, filtering through the grimy windows at the end of the hall. I walked towards the light, each step hesitant. The temperature continued to drop. My breath formed clouds in the air as if I were exhaling the last vestiges of warmth from my lungs. The silence was complete now. No creaking floorboards, no rustling sounds, just an oppressive, all-encompassing quiet. The kind of quiet that precedes a storm. At the end of the hall, bathed in the pale moonlight, was a single photograph hanging on the wall. It depicted a young woman, her face etched with a sadness that transcended time. She wore a long white dress that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. Her eyes held mine. They were filled with a sorrow so profound, so palpable, that it sent shivers down my spine. I felt an overwhelming urge to look away, but I couldn't. It was as if she were drawing me in, beckoning me closer. As I stared at the photograph, I noticed something strange. The woman's reflection in the glass wasn't looking at me. Her head was turned, as if she were looking at something behind me, something in the darkness. A cold dread washed over me. I didn't want to turn around. I didn't want to know what she saw, but I knew I had to. Slowly, heart pounding in my chest, I began to turn. Just as I started to turn, I heard it. A child's voice, faint and whispery, coming from the room behind me. It was a sound that sent chills down my spine. High-pitched and filled with an innocence that was somehow more terrifying than any growl or scream. "Mama?" the voice whispered. "Are you here?" I froze, my blood turning to ice in my veins. The voice was so close, so real. It was as if the child were standing right behind me, their breath warm on my neck. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there, frozen in place by terror. But my legs wouldn't move. It was as if some unseen force had me pinned to the spot. "Mama, I'm scared," the voice whispered again, closer this time. "Don't leave me alone." The shadows in the hallway seemed to lengthen, stretching towards me like grasping claws. The air grew colder, biting at my skin. I could feel the presence of something unseen closing in around me, something cold and malevolent. The child's voice continued to whisper, each word a hammer blow to my sanity. "Mama, please," it pleaded. "Don't let them take me again. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get out of there." Turning away from the photograph and the unseen child, I ran towards the staircase, my heart pounding in my chest. As I ran, I could hear the child's voice following me, growing louder with each step I took. "Don't leave me, Mama!" it screamed. "Don't leave me here with them!" I stumbled down the stairs, my foot catching on a loose step. I fell, tumbling down the remaining steps and landing in a heap at the bottom. Pain shot through my ankle, but I couldn't stay there. I had to get out. Scrambling to my feet, I limped towards the front door, the child's screams echoing in my ears. I could feel the presence of something evil right behind me, its cold breath on my neck. Throwing open the door, I stumbled out into the sunlight. The warmth of the day washed over me, chasing away the chill of the house. But the child's screams continued to ring in my ears, even as I ran towards my car. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew that whatever haunted that house, whatever evil lurked within its walls, it was best left undisturbed. Some things are better left unseen. Driving away from the house on the hill, I could see it in my rearview mirror, silhouetted against the setting sun. It looked peaceful, almost serene, but I knew the truth. Beneath its facade of normalcy, the house on the hill held a darkness that ran deeper than any ocean. The silence of the house was a living thing. It clung to me, a constant reminder of the horrors I had witnessed, or perhaps the horrors I had imagined. Had I truly heard a child's voice, or was it just my mind playing tricks on me? I didn't know, and I wasn't sure I wanted to. Some mysteries are best left unsolved, some doors are best left closed. The silent house on the hill held its secrets close, and I, for one, was content to let them remain buried within its decaying walls. The silence, after all, was death.